Welcome to the liberating river where spiritual freedom meets soul aligned wealth. I'm Wanda.
You do not have to reject everything to be free. You do not have to throw away your culture to become yourself. You do not have to become rootless in order to expand. But you do have to ask those questions. What questions? Which parts of this inheritance nourishes me? You have to ask that question. Which parts of this inheritance limits me? Which values are sacred? Which rules were created by fear? Which traditions connect me to wisdom? And which traditions keep me from truth? Which expectations are aligned with who I am becoming? And which expectations are simply old boxes with emotional consequences attached? That is the work. That is where you begin, not the rejection, not rebellious for the sake of rebellion, discernment. Because spiritual maturity is not just accepting everything you were handed. It is not just rejecting everything you were handed either, because that would be naive. Spiritual maturity is learning to separate wisdom from conditioning. That is where freedom becomes responsible. That is where expansion becomes grounded. That is where you get to say, I know where I come from. And I also know I am allowed to grow. You can say, I honor my roots and I honor my history, but I refuse to make my roots a prison. I carry that love. I release the limitations. I can belong to my people without betraying myself. That kind of freedom is not loud. It is not surface level. It is deep. Another place where expectations have been inherited is in careers. Many people inherit an identity they never consciously chose. That's what I've been saying. That's where we're at. And that's the truth. Some people did not choose the career. Some people are told what career they must go into. They chose what would make their guardian proud. Others chose the safest one, the approved one. They chose what made sense at the time. They chose what would get them out of course, a difficult situation. They chose what would pay the bills. They chose what looked respectable. They chose what other people understood. And again, this is not about shaming. Please hear me. This is not about shaming. But sometimes survival choices are sacred. Sometimes the job that was not your dream still kept food on the table. Sometimes the career you fell into gave you stability. Sometimes that path was not your passion, but it taught you what? Discipline, wisdom, leadership, and it gave you skills. So this is not about dishonoring the career path that carries you, but I must say it carries you to this point because asking whether or not this job can continue to carry you should be allowed and is required because now it's about exposing the truth. When you applied for that job, were you thinking of yourself uh as far as what would make you happy? What would make you money? Or were you thinking about your external environment? What made people happy? You knew things were tight, so you went and you got that third job. You see what I'm saying? Because I feel many people are not trapped in their job. I don't think so. They are trapped in the identity their work created. They are trapped in being seen as practical, reliable, successful, stable, responsible, professional, needed, impressive. And underneath all of that, there is a deeper question that many of us ask, but we don't let it be known. Who am I if I want something different? Who am I if I have outgrown this role? Who am I if I'm good at something that no longer feels aligned? Who am I if the career that gave me security now feels too small for my calling? Who am I if I want to build something of my own? Who am I if I want to be creative? Who am I if I want to teach, speak, write, coach, lead, build, or serve in a new way? Who am I if I am multidimensional? These questions matter, but we shy away from them because we want to stay in reality. Career boxes are often socially rewarded. Let me pause right here. I'm going to say this. I know this is extremely controversial, but I'm going here. In my opinion, titles are overrated. They are. Why do I say this? Because with titles, morph your identity. Titles morph your identity. Say I met you in college. Let's go down this road, right? Say I met you in college. Your name is Win. We graduate. We lose contact. 5 to I'll say 6 years later, we reconnect. You now have your PhD. I greet you like I've always greeted you. You're a Win to me. But you correct me and say, "No, I am Dr. Win." Imma tell you right now, I immediately have a problem because people do this, and that's why I said this is gonna be controversial. It doesn't matter because you're gonna understand where I'm coming from with this. Many people will say out of respect, I should now start calling you Dr. Win. But think about this, out of respect of what? A paper? A dissertation? Yes. Yes, you went to school longer and received your doctorate. Congratulations. Seriously, that is a major accomplishment, and I'm excited for you. But that is not your name. Are you understanding where I'm coming from? That is not your name. Your name is Win. On your birth certificate, it says Win. What I think happens with people who have titles, your titles adjust your identity. It does. Whether it's the degree or the position, you adjust your identity based on that title. So, due to the fact you received your doctorate, you have now adjusted your identity to a piece of paper and stripes on the road. I told you this is going to be controversial, but it's the truth of the matter, and you're going to understand. If you allow yourself to, you will understand where I'm coming from. I, I already know. I already know this. I already know some of you will, you might even be offended, but it's okay. It really is. Share your thoughts honestly. I did not say getting the doctorate was not an accomplishment. I am truly proud of you, and I'm sincerely proud of you. I stopped at 2 masters. I have 2 master's degrees. I'm proud of me because that's where I wanted to stop. I didn't need a doctorate. So, what I am saying is that the title is not your identity. The title is just a title. That means, guess what? You gained extra skills and you gained extra knowledge. And hopefully, it added value to your life, your already established personality, your already established characteristics. And the reality of the truth is this: if you do something that is deemed non negotiable, I might hurt your feelings, but it's the truth. If you do something that's non negotiable, or what people might call removable, an organization will strip you of your title. And you know I'm telling the truth. Think about that for a minute. You move up, you receive a title, something happens, and an organization, management tells you you can no longer be affiliated or revokes your privileges, and you must disassociate. How do you feel now? I have heard so many people that have said they are distraught. Oh my gosh, my life is over. Oh my. That's because the title has become your identity, which it was never supposed to become. Never. Now your identity is shot to hell. Why? Because now you related yourself to that title, to your achievement. So now you're crying, you're in pain, you're depressed because you relied on a title to define who you are. You allowed that job description, that degree or degrees, that promotion, that paycheck, that conventional success to define you. That's why, please understand, titles, hear me, titles are for the external world. It's for that career. It's for that box for a career. And you know what titles do? It defines you. That's why people understand titles. That's why people lean heavily on titles. Why? Because it's a box the external world can't control. It's a box that everybody outside of you, outside of your true identity, controls the narrative to. The external world can't control your calling. It can't control your true identity. So when you attach yourself to a title and feel like, "Well, now that I have this, now you have to call me this," that means, and in my mind, when people want to correct me, it's like, "No, I'm such and such." Okay, so you have no identity, because once that is revoked, if it's ever revoked, if it's ever questioned, now you feel worthless. And that should never be. That's why I keep saying you let that paper, whether it's a degree, a position, whatever it is, you let that paper define who you are. And you need to take your identity back. Don't be depressed. You are still who you are. You still have worth. You still have a calling. And your calling needs you. You don't need to depend on that particular degree to achieve your calling. Your purpose is not linear. It's not. Expansion is not always easy to be explained. Sometimes the next version of you does not fit neatly on a resume. Sometimes your gifts do not make sense to anyone else. But you got to realize it wasn't their lane in the first place. It's yours. And sometimes your path looks scattered to people who do not recognize integration. And that is especially difficult for people who are gifted in multiple areas. So, yes, it's okay to have your position. Yes, it's okay to have your title, but do not let it control and dictate who you are. And I'll even say this. The world loves to ask this question. What do you do? What is your title? But sometimes the truer question is this. What are you here to build? What are you here to express, to heal, to teach, transform, embody? That's the true question that should be asked. Because what you do may be one expression, but who you are may contain many expressions. Stay tuned. To be continued, coming next week.